Okay, hello there, everybody. This is your favorite uncle, and tonight we're going to do a special little video about wet sanding. So this video is going to be titled Rob Rubs One Out, an introduction to wet sanding. What I have here is a bass guitar body. Now this bass guitar body was cut out, and the base coats of the swirl. Now this thing glows in the dark, mind you. I'll have to show you that on another video one day, but I bought this off of eBay. There's this guy, he makes these bodies, and he cut this one for me. And what he does with this to get these swirls is they actually take the body and they dip it into the solution with the paint, and in a big tank. It's basically a big tank of water, and they just dip. They put the colors on top, and then they dip it. It's really interesting how they do it, and I'm sure there's a video about it on someone else's YouTube channel. But this is basically my introduction to wet sanding. Which wet sanding, French polishing, it's really a skill that can be developed. It takes a lot of patience. Okay, but if you take your time and you don't rush, and you just mellow out and do it, you can really get a good job done. Now this base, it's nice and shiny. This came with no clear coats on it. I've got right now about 8 clear coats on this. Okay, and I put a lot of clear coat, and I haven't sanded it yet. It's because if I did sand through the clear coat, this swirl finish is very, very, very thin, so I would get rub-throughs into the wood, which I absolutely don't want. The other thing is, the sanding process I'm going to show you real quickly here. It's going to require a light touch. So I'm going to show you what you need to get started wet sanding, and wet sanding and French polishing, okay? Right now is wet sanding, because I'm going to wet sand this, and I'm going to spray more finish on it after I'm done with this video. And I'm not going to make you sit here for 3 hours while I polish this. The things you need to do this are, you need wet and dry sandpaper, okay? This is 600 grit. I don't know if you can see the 600, it's a little worn out. You need some wetness, so you need some water. And me, I prefer to have one of my favorite adult beverages, or 2 or 3, and maybe a little drug-induced patience, but I haven't smoked that yet because I want to be relatively coherent while I introduce this video. So anyway, cheers. This is my first one. God, it's just like Mom used to make. And of course, if you got a cigarette, it just makes you look cool while you're doing it, right? Mind you, old kiddies out there in TV land, don't smoke. These things are really bad for you. So let's get started. What you first want to do is you want to wet your paper, okay? You don't need it dripping wet like this, but I just basically dip it in. And then what you want to do is start lightly. And this is 600 grit. Usually, if this was a body that I got when it was made, just, a regular wood, unprimed, untreated body, I would put on about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 coats of base coat, and I would wet sand that out. And I'll show you a base body I have upstairs later. That thing's probably got 25 coats on it already. But for this one, I have right now probably 6 or 8 coats of clear finish. And I'm just using regular old, Rust-Oleum, Rust-Oleum brand stuff. You can get this at Home Depot. It's not expensive, and it's nice paint. It gives you actually a nice finish. That's the metal flake stuff that I did my Thunderbird body with. But this is a body that I've had. It's been sitting down here in the shop for, about a year since I started working on it. But my mom and dad went away to Tennessee, so I'm in my parents' garage, which is a nice place to work. A little bit too humid to spray finish right now. So anyway, what I'm doing is just mindlessly going over this base body, small sections at a time, in little orbital motions, okay? And I'm using a really light touch on this, but I can already feel this smoothing out, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's really difficult to see. There's just small imperfections here, you know, little places where the clear coat has bubbled and stuff like that. But, you know, aside from that, I've spent a lot of drug-induced patience on this base body. Because really, I don't want to fuck up this beautiful swirl job on it. And anyway, so back to wet sanding. You can see what I'm doing, right? I'm just rubbing it out a little at a time. What you want to do, you know, you'll see your sandpaper, that white stuff on there. That's just the clear coat coming off. And when you polish something, basically what you're doing is just making smaller and smaller scratches in the surface. So I'm scratching this with a 600 grit right now. And like I said, if this was something that I was painting from a raw slab of, you know, raw sanded to 200 grit, you know, and then sprayed a few coats of, or several coats of base coat on it, you know, that's what I call the color coat. You know, I would have sanded it out with just 200 grit wet and dry, dried it off, let it sit for, you know, overnight probably in a nice, like upstairs. My dad keeps it so freaking hot, and it's really dry up there. My bag of tobacco is like, it just turns to dust. I mean, that's how dry it got, because I have to roll my own cigarettes, because I live in New York State, and, you know, nobody can afford to smoke anymore, so, unless you make your own, because cigarettes are like $14 a pack at this point. So anyway, so what I'm doing is I keep dipping my paper, and you just keep sanding small areas like this, okay? You just pick one little area and just touch it lightly like this. And then, you know, the greatest feelers in the world are your fingertips. And you just do this for hours and hours and hours and hours, okay? Little small scratches. And I'm not digging in. I'm not going back and forth. You want little small scratches in a circle, okay? And wow. I love wet sanding because it's a great time to like sit down, have a beer, smoke a joint, listen to, you know, House of Hair on the local heavy metal station. And you know, it's like Zen and meditation, you know, you just quietly you along with your thoughts. And an obscene amount of gas coming from this can of Labatt's Blue. Hey, but it's Canadian beer, and guess what's legal in Canada today? Yep, in Canadia today, they made marijuana legal. I'm very proud of them. And I'm proud that my guitar player from Flux Capacitor is a Canadian. I can say I actually know one. And believe it or not, they don't have like square heads and square tires on their cars like they show on South Park. Canadians are actually kind of like real people, if you can believe that. But anyway, enough of my babbling. Let's boogie. See you later.